Okay, I want to, with this particular video, is run through another regression example showing you how to use your calculator with regressions. The first thing that you would need to do is to look at your data. We have another problem to do. So let's look at that data first. So I'm going to look at that data on paper first. Our data is X and Y. Our X is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Our Y value is 250, 230, 200, 210, 140, 120, 210, 100, 90, and 85. Now the data that we're using this time is from a realistic situation of looking at as the number of hours pass, which is the X's, how much of a drug is left in your system. So measurements are taken to determine how much of a particular drug is left in your system, how much dissipates as time passes. So again, we're looking at using a calculator to find these particular values. So we're going to go to the calculator. I'm trying to get a non-glare look here. We're going to go to the Stat key, press the Edit, and we want to clear out any old list that you may have. So we're going to go to the top of the list and hit the Clear key and Enter, and do that for each of the lists that you have there. There are some additional ways. If you look at your Stat key and look at choice 4, you have clear list there, and you can do it that way as well. You can put in all the arguments. That's what it's asking for, is to put in your arguments there. So if I wanted to put in L3, I would type that in, and it would clear that list out as well. So there are other ways of clearing your list out. Okay, so that takes just a minute to get all those cleared out. All right, so let's go back to L1, and we're going to start by entering our data into the list. So we're going to start with our X values, entering those in. So that's the first task that we have, to enter the X values in. Our next task is to enter the Y values. And we do want to double check that we've entered our data in correctly. It is possible to make mistakes as we're entering our data, and then of course that will mess up our calculations. So you do want to take a minute to be sure that you've entered your data correctly. And that you have all your data in. Now, our next item to do is to square our X's. And so what we want to do is to put that answer in L3. So we're going to arrow over to L3, go up to the top of the list, and we're going to tell the calculator to square the items from L1. So first of all, we're going to do second and L1, and then we're going to press the square key. So we're telling the calculator to square the values that are in L1, and we press enter. And now all the values that are in L3 have been squared that were in L1. So we're going to repeat this same process in L4, but do it for the values that were in L2, which were the Y values. So we're going to do second and L2 and square, and then press enter, and all of those values are done. Okay, those answers, yeah, that's correct. That should be our correct answers. And then we're going to go over to L5, and we want to do x times y. So we're going to do, the x's are in L1, so we go all the way up to the top. So second and L1 times second and L2. So we type that information in, and then we press enter, and that data is generated for us. And then we can copy that information down in the chart on our paper if you want to, but we have that data in the calculator for us. And then we can go through our formula in order to create our information to get our regression model then using that information. So first of all, we want to find the slope. So we're going to find the number of data items, which was 10, times the sum of x times y. So we need to do that. So in order to get that from the calculator, let's clear out of this screen, and we're going to do second and stat. Go over to math. We're going to go down to choice 5, the sum. Press enter, and the sum of what column is x times y in? It's in L5. So we want to do the sum of L5 and press enter, and it gives us that value, 7,500. Minus, we want the sum of L1. So in our calculator, we're going to repeat second and stat. We go over to math, down to choice 5, and this time we're putting L1 and enter, and so that value is 55. And then we want the sum of the y column, so that's in L2. So second and stat, over to math, choice 5, and we're doing second and L2 there to get that sum. So there's the numerator of our formula. And now to put in the denominator, 10 items times the sum of the x squared column, so that is L3. So second and stat, over to math, sum of L3, 385. And then we want the sum of the x column, which we already have, 55, and we're going to square it. So there's our formula. And so now let's just simplify our formula. So 10 times 7,500, 750,000. minus 55 times 1,635 gives us 89,925. 10 times 385 gives us 3850. And 55 squared is 3,025. Our next step is to do this subtraction. And so we get a negative answer, negative 14925 over 825, which gives us negative 18.1. And next we want to calculate the y-intercept. So that is b, or b sub 0. And so we're doing the sum of the y column, which was L2, 1635, minus the slope we just found, negative 18.1, times the sum of the x column, which we found to be 55, all over the number of values, which was 10. And so we need to compute this. So 1635 minus negative 18 times 55 is going to give us negative 995.5 all over 10. And so then when we do 1635 minus that negative, that becomes positive. So we get positive 2630.5 over 10, which then reduces to be 263.05. And so our model equation then will be y equals negative 18.1x plus 263.1. So our model equation for the time for the drug dissipating from the body is moving, or it's leaving the body at a rate of 18.1% per hour at that starting rate in your body, 263. So that gives us our model equation, our regression equation using the least squares method. So that's just going through using your calculator to help you come up with those particular values.